You're listening to Mr. Credit on San Diego 1700 with local credit expert Derek Evans. Now, live in studio, Mr. Credit.
Welcome to Mr. Credit. We are live and local here in San Diego, Sereno Valley. We're bringing you the most important hour on radio in the land and telling you everything that they don't want you to know about consumer credit scoring, the bureaus, the banks, and the government, and bringing you some crazy stories today. We've got Pat Springer from BMW of San Diego coming on the line at 12:15. We're going to talk a lot about auto financing today. I'm going to jump right to some of these top stories. I tell you, the first one that really sticks out to me is just, it's unbelievable. But apparently a Verizon wireless bill collector, allegedly, of course, threatens to blow up a man's house. Verizon Wireless has been sued by a customer who alleges that one of its debt collectors threatened to blow his house up over a $308 unpaid bill. Al Burrows, 45, said Verizon had already given him 90 days to pay his bill when he received a call from another bill collector. The second bill collector acknowledged the payment plan, Burrows said, but still pressed for immediate payment. He said, "I am going to blow your mother F bleep house up," the bill collector said, according to the lawsuit filed by New Mexico's First Judicial District Court. Burrows, who lived in New Mexico at the time, alleged that he did owe Verizon Wireless $308 on behalf of an account that he opened for his stepson, but he worked out a payment plan as soon as he found out about the debt. Now, we talked, we had William McDonald in the studio yesterday, and we talked about these bill collectors and how the things that they do are just unbelievable. I mean, they will call your neighbors, they will call your work, they'll call your cell, they'll call your brother, your mother, your father, they'll call their cells if they can find the numbers. It's just crazy. Now, there's been a lot of talk about the reform and things like that for these bill collecting agencies, and the problem is that no matter what you do, you can't stop someone from doing it. No matter what speed limit you put out on the road, it doesn't keep someone from pressing the gas pedal down and going above the speed limit. So what we really need to do here is we have to focus on, what's the punishment for something like this? I mean, obviously there's going to be a big deal about this one since this is national news. But we've got to set up a system in place so that these collectors who are violating the Fair Debt Collections Practices Act or any form of the Fair Credit Reporting Act are receiving a significant fine. A significant fine. When I say significant, I mean $1 million. I mean something that makes it a part of what they do. Right now, they just say, well, let's hope this doesn't happen. And if it does, and they go to court, they probably have to settle. They have attorneys on staff and so forth. But we need to make it so monetarily damaging that they actually start to integrate in their training the correct way to do this, because this is obviously ridiculous. Now, these guys are on commission, so they're going to do whatever they can, or whatever they think is going to work. And if they smell blood, they will come after you. If they sensed weakness on this guy's part, they just went after him. And that's the way it is, and that's not the way that it should be. Padres won again last night against the Cardinals, taking them on again today, 3:30 game. You can listen to it right here on San Diego 1700. We're still in first place. I expect to see some brooms down at the ballpark today. I will be joining everyone. I'll be about 20, 25 rows behind home plate wearing the black Mr. Credit shirt, so check me out there. You can also do a Facebook search for Mr. Credit or check out MrCreditRadio.com if you want to email me your questions. I will get to your emails a little later in the show. This next story is about debt settlement, and there's a lot of legislation going on right now that's trying to regulate debt settlement to make it a little bit better for the consumer, and I applaud all efforts in that direction. It really is something that needs to be done. But this is an interesting article because it's called 6 Signs the Debt Settlement Pitch is a Scam. Now, not all debt settlement companies are trying to scam you, but the actual idea of debt settlement does not make sense in really any circumstance. So these are the top 6 signs. I think you should be aware of them. I do have an email from someone asking about debt settlement, so this is pretty pertinent today. They claim they will contact your creditors and settle your accounts for, quote, pennies on the dollar. I think they all say that. So, but that's something they're saying is potentially a sign it's a scam. They claim to guarantee 100% success. Obviously, no one can do that. They tout a new government program to bail out credit card debtors. They promise they can stop all debt collection calls or lawsuits. That's not true. They can't do that. They can certainly contact creditors and try to say, hey, we're working out a payment plan and hope that you stop getting calls, but that doesn't mean that the creditors have to stop calling you. The only way you can achieve that, like we spoke about yesterday several times with William McDonald here in studio, is by filing for bankruptcy. You file for the Chapter 7 bankruptcy. As soon as you file, now the debt collectors can no longer contact you legally. If they do, it turns the tables on them. Now they're breaking the law. So if you have something like that occurring, then you should call William McDonald, no question, right now, 858-437-0103. Talk to him about your situation, 858-437-0103. Free consultation with William McDonald, the best bankruptcy attorney in San Diego. He really cares about you. That's why I recommend him. The fifth one is they charge you a full fee in advance. Now, this is the reason why debt settlement doesn't make sense, okay? And I've never been a fan of it. I can't find any situation in which I think it, is the right thing for anyone to do. But for some reason, so many people do it. I've got to tell you the truth about it. What they do is they tell you, okay, stop making your payments so you can pay us. So they're telling someone who's trying to negotiate their debts, hey, stop paying them, pay me. Well, that, first of all, just in principle doesn't make sense. But the reason they're telling you to do that is because they know that once your accounts that you're trying to settle become late, become delinquent, become even collections or charged off, it'll be easier for them to settle the account for less money than what's owed. Problem is this. In the meantime, how many penalties and fees are racking up? How big is the balance that they're actually trying to settle from in the end versus where it started? That's the first question. The second one is you're burning your credit to the ground. And that is that we want credit scores to go higher on this show, not lower. I don't have a button for the lower sound. No! That's not what we want. We don't want the scores to go lower. We want them to go higher. So I can't tell you debt settlement's a good idea. I can tell you Chapter 7 bankruptcy makes a lot of sense if you're considering debt settlement. Typically, if you're having trouble making the payments, you want to get rid of your debts, Chapter 7 bankruptcy, you can totally save your credit score. You can keep from having to become behind on these things and having those late payments stay in your payment history. Because when you file a Chapter 7, it negates all the negative information associated with those accounts that are included in there. So it just doesn't make any sense for me. Of course, William McDonald's the only person I recommend. Free consultations, 858-437-0103. And then the sixth one is they tell you not to contact the creditors. I understand that because when I help someone with their credit, I don't want them to contact the creditors either. I just don't want them to show our hand at all or admit to anything that maybe they're not meaning to do. These creditors, these collectors, they have this down to a science. They understand this stuff. They have very smart people, very smart programs that try to get you to say something or admit to something that is not good for you and is good for them. And that's just the way this thing works because, in the end, it's all about, and that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to collect that one way or the other. And that's what the whole credit industry revolves around. So if it's the case that, you're in that situation where someone is telling you not to contact a creditor, I'm not going to tell you that's a bad thing because I tell people that. And it's definitely in your best interest because I know if I'm contacting the creditor or someone on my staff is, we're much more likely to accomplish your goals, than you are because we know what they're trying to do. And it's kind of like that chess match of, well, if he's thinking 2 steps ahead, he's thinking 3 steps ahead. And you only need to be thinking 2 steps ahead if you know what the steps are. So you can play with a stacked deck if you really know what you're doing with credit. And if you need help with it, just go to MrCreditRadio.com. I'm happy to help you. You can send me an email right there, access my educational video library as well. So debt settlement, not something I can recommend in really any circumstance. I mean, maybe if you didn't qualify for bankruptcy, even then, though, you're going to burn your credit to the ground. I mean, you're just going to burn it to the ground because you're going to have late payments on every single account that you're trying to settle. And they're going to be 90-plus day late, so your scores are going to go into the fours. It's the bottom line. And in paying those accounts off, as we know, paying those collections off is not going to do anything for you. Because once you get a collection, the damage is done. So if anything goes to collections, then actually going and settling and using the service that you've been paying for from the debt settlement company is actually going to do you absolutely no good. In fact, may reactivate those collections and cause your score to go down further. So from a credit scoring standpoint, debt settlement, no-go. It's not good for you. Chapter 7 bankruptcy is 10 times better and will save your credit. This one was, I thought this one was really interesting. There's some information. There were some people in Virginia, some lawmakers, who had their credit card information stolen. Thursday, CBS 6 reported that Senate Majority Leader Richard Saslaw was a victim of identity theft. Now we're learning that Senator Toddy Puller of Mount Vernon and Delegate Tom Rust of Herndon were also victims. So someone was out there stealing identities from Virginia senators. I'm not sure what the deal was. It doesn't seem like there's any political party here. But the California investigators believe the lawmakers were paying for their meal at a Virginia restaurant when the magnetic strips of their credit cards were stolen. Now, that's a little bit different than identity theft. The police say the information was obtained by skimming